We're live. Earlier. Earlier. So our goal for today is to work on Foon-o, get like this little spinny circle thingy to do what I want it to. Where we left off last time is the card in the center properly resizes now based on the available canvas size. So before, every game in Foon-o was a canvas, and it would have a 1:1 aspect ratio, meaning that the width and the height are always the same. So you can see here we have more width than we have height, right? So it's 1102 by 815. And so it would choose the smallest number, 815, and just make like a square, and then it would be centered. Pedro, howdy. Scoozle, howdy. And Sculption, howdy. How's it going, everyone? You'll also notice there is now this chat thing above. So as you type, you can actually see your message here. I might limit the space to only show like a certain number of them and have them fade out over time or something. We'll see. But you can kind of see the way that it works on the chat. I spent some time tuning the CSS, so let me know if it can be improved in any way, but check it out. This will be very useful whenever we're on Kick and YouTube and all the other platforms because it'll kind of combine everything, right? It gives me a way to see it and it'll be great. All right, so let me demonstrate what I've got so far. You can see that when I'm changing the larger size, it doesn't really seem to change. The circle changes, but that's just because it's based on something a little different. But then when I change the smaller size, so if I make this, I need to refresh the page. It does work. Unless I messed something else up. Yeah, see? So that's what I did yesterday. As well as I made the card itself, which is a rather large part of this, actually. One thing I need to do is I need to make it so that these pointer events are not pointer events. So this whole card, inside of the card, needs to have no pointer events. Let's try that. There we go. And now there's no pointer events inside of it. Dispel, howdy. I also saw something interesting today. Did you ever watch a trading card game anime like Yu-Gi-Oh? Dude, Yu-Gi-Oh was awesome back in the day. They had like the finger guns because in the US version, they weren't allowed to have actual guns or something, which was like, okay, well, why is this part of the localization? But it was. So it looked very silly. But man, I remember Yu-Gi-Oh! That was a cool show. What's on the agenda base? We are working on a port over from Foon-o to HTML5. So here's Foon-o right now. The reason we're doing this is like twofold. One is that sometimes one of these images will just break, especially for new players, and then it's just broken forever. The other is that like the card backs, you can't really tell because I'm in kind of a lobby with bots and they have the default card back. But these kind of get buggy and it's kind of annoying to fix it. So you can see here it looks like my card back is the same as everyone else's, but it's not. So you'll see like as I play some cards, if I get a chance to play some cards, you'll see the new ones coming in. I probably won't get a chance, I have too many cards in my hand. Oh, there we go. You see like the last one has like this card here? So that should be all of mine because I have the special background. So all these things will get fixed. What's it currently running? Currently it's using phaser. But we're changing this so that it's no longer phaser and that it's going to be a canvas instead. There's some parts that are a little tricky, right? One thing is I could just make everything an absolute position and have like a scale and then update the scale and figure out what the size and pixels everything should be. Which I thought would be more important than it probably is, because looking at the cards in my hand, it doesn't look like it actually maintains the size, meaning I don't actually care what the size of the card in the center is. What I do care about is figuring out how to take what I have here and kind of convert it into like a nice DOM kind of thing. So here's kind of what I'm thinking. We're gonna take, let's use a bright color, like a bright green or something, or yellow. Yellow works really well with purple. So this is not all the players. I should do it with more players. Let's do this with max number of players so we can really tell. So I'll just make a game with like 100 players. Should probably make unofficial spectator harder to get. Alrighty. So we've got 3 on the left. I mean, it's almost like columns. It's like you've got 1 column on the left, 1 column in the center, 1 column on the right. Prime sub. Thank you so much, Sot. I appreciate it, Sotlonet. Sotelene. I'm not sure how to say your name, but I appreciate it. All right. So here's what I'm thinking. We do 1 column here using just, you know, display flex call. Real simple. Which that is a selector. That's not a shape. Let's try this again. Okay, so 1 column here. And then we do another column here, and then this one is just like flex center, and then we just align everything, right? 1 in a row against you. How do you know of 1 in a row? How do you know about these secret things? Hydrate? Alright, let's do it. SEC, thank you for the raid. Appreciate it a lot. What were you working on? Science and technology. Let's see. Hacking games? I love it. I saw hacking games somewhere. Maybe it was the about. Hacking games mostly for now. Heck yeah. I did that for 1-up. I couldn't beat the game normally, so I just like moved myself to the top. Active Directory hacking? Very cool. I've never done that before. Seer, howdy. White Cyberduck, howdy. How's it going? And then you played the password game. Oh yeah, I played that. I got up to like 15 or so, and then I was like, you know what, let's just hack it. So I just pop this open, you know, you go over to the network tab and you do like a search for like test or something. Yeah, this thing. And then you just like dot test, wherever the heck this is. I forget where you do it, but basically, you do something along these lines. And not the regex.test, but it was one of these others. I don't remember exactly where, but it was easy enough to find. Anyhow, you just like pause it, replace everything, and then you win. No games are safe from hacker Twitch. Look, we're programmers. It's what we do. You kept killing the emoji chicken on accident. That's what happened to me. I got up to like the fire thing legit, and then the chicken died, and I was like, all right, fine. Gloves are coming off. Do I use Android Studio? I use JetBrains. So this is basically like Android Studio. It's what Android Studio is based off of. I think theirs is based off the community version. Alrighty. Anyhow, what I wanted to do is get this implemented. So let's just keep going here. So I'm thinking 3 columns like this is probably going to be ideal. I could do 3 columns, or I could also make it like a grid. I think 3 columns will be fine. I can just have it centered or something and space between. And then down here, that can just be a single row, right? We can have overflow on this one. But I guess it would be like this, which is fine. That can be centered. And then of course, this is also an element thingy. And then we're gonna have to like do something special here, where we grab the size and the position so that we can fling the cards into the center using some kind of like a transform. So that'll be tricky, but it should work fine. And if we're doing that, it means we don't actually need to store this card width. We don't need any kind of resize observer, because we no longer want all of the cards in the entire game space to be the same size. It's no longer important. So we'll comment it out for now, and then we'll delete it before we commit. All right. So that means I'm going to have to modify the current card to be based on some other size instead. Let's just see what that looks like, and we'll adjust as necessary. Let's see, that seems a little bit too small. Can you do web programming on a 22-inch single monitor? Yeah, you can do web programming on a CRT if you want to. It just makes life harder. This, like, the less screen space that you have, the harder it's going to be, because you're going to be able to have less documentation and less code open at the same time as maybe your site. So depending on what OS you're using, there's something called workspaces, or you can quickly swap between different workspaces. I don't remember how exactly. It was something like, I don't remember the key binds. There's some way to do it. But anyways, look into workspaces. It lets you very quickly swap between the browser and your code. I don't use workspaces because I just have tons of screen space all over the place instead. But it's a good, it works totally fine. It's what I used to use when I was on a Mac, on like a laptop, one screen. So just do that. Windows control left and right. I was hitting that. I guess I've got workspaces disabled or something. Can you write code on one and see results on another? Yeah, exactly, Dettol. So what you'll do is you'll put your browser on one workspace and you'll have your code on another workspace. And then you can just like pop between them. Already live? Heck yeah, Doku. I'm trying to wake up earlier. Or rolling back the clock. I thought about going live 30 minutes earlier. Virtual desktops or whatever in Windows, but yeah. Anyhow. Do I use WebSockets for multiplayer games? I do, actually. I recommend WebSockets. I've tried it all. I've done surface and events. I've done long polling. I've done WebSockets. For games, you want to use WebSockets. For getting stat updates on a dashboard, you want to use long polling, not WebSockets. Because WebSockets limits you to the number of headers you can pass in, meaning that it's going to be harder for you. You can still send a cookie session information via WebSocket, but if you're using an authorization header, you'll run into issues. So I find it easier to work with to just use a long polling. Like typical REST API calls just every once in a while. But for Foon-o, it's WebSockets. It has to be. Basically, anytime you have super fast updates, you want to have WebSockets, right? Like if you need a response within like 5-10 seconds, WebSocket. Do I use any libraries? I use a whole host of libraries. I use React, TypeScript, Zustand with a wrapper, MUI, although I'm kind of replacing MUI with ShadCN, Tailwind. I'm sure I've missed like half a dozen. I use Phaser for the games. The backend is a whole thing. There's a lot. I use TS-JSON schema generator for my own custom RPC validation. I don't use tRPC. All right, so we need to make sure that it is roughly the same size. So what is the relation in size? It's about there, minus a pixel. Width is 388, 387. And the inner is 125, I believe. Yeah, 125. So 125 over 387, that's my ratio. So now I just need to take the outer one with a width of 547. And that tells me the number of pixels I need. This is probably like some of the most advanced math you'll have to do if you're doing like front end and stuff. It's just like some simple algebra. Howdy, Jake. How's it going? Okay, so this currently at 75. We need to be at 176. So let's just divide by 75. and take that and multiply by 0.3, so I need to be at roughly 71%. Am I still using Firestore listeners for real-time stuff? I use Firestore for persistent things, yeah. It's a mix between Firestore and WebSockets. Firestore under the hood, I think uses WebSockets, but I could be wrong. I forget exactly. And here you can see kind of, well, if I open it again, you can see it. Here's my Redis. It's growing a lot thanks to all of the logs. So I probably don't need to store quite so many logs. Because this is only useful if somebody reports a bug and I don't get to it for a few days. So I might change this. Maybe free up some of this excess memory. This is super useful though. I can view all the past games. So if you cheat, now I know. I've got some game state here, and I know who's on each team. So I can do these asynchronously where I have some kind of like a worker that iterates over all the past game sessions, and it searches for like chess, for example, and maybe it does like a sampling. So if it's too expensive to do every one, I can just, randomly sample it and look for cheaters. And then if I find you cheating, I flag your accounts, and then I can like go in and ban your face, like something like that. Probably wouldn't ban you. I'd probably be like, I might reach out and be like, hey, are you cheating? Or I might like reset somebody's, chess level if they're cheating in chess or something. Actually doing it? Yeah, Doku. I mean, we've got it up to logging it now. So now whenever you report someone, Doku, I can go in and I can actually view the history of the game, how long it lasted for. I can view their previous histories for all of the games they've ever played to see if it's consistent or if they've been like fooling around. So many neat features beyond just caching. Yeah, there's a lot of cool things it can do. But keep in mind it's still Redis, right? Like it's not going to have your safety and other stuff that something more like PostgreSQL is going to have. What do I use Redis for beyond just caching? I use it for all sorts of things. I use this for a lot of the more ephemeral data. So for example, all of the rooms here, you can have like this hash. So this is all of the rooms that are currently in existence in Foon-o. Here's a sorted set. This is when different rooms expire. So normally in Redis, you can't expire keys inside of hashes, but I have modified it to add support for that. I also have pub sub support using streams. Can I ban others that you've reported before? From here on out, Doku, I have to be able to log the information in order to do like a proper like lookup of them, but now I'm logging it. Yeah, there's a lot of powerful things Redis can do, and this is just scratching the surface. Redis also supports using sets and Bloom filters and vector databases. There's a lot of powerful things you can do with it. So I can, for example, I can store an embedding of a book in Redis, and then, or like the embedding of an image. And then if you were to upload an image, I can find the most similar images to that image, that embedding, right? This is how a lot of like suggestion engines work. I believe, like if you watch a video, and then you can find similar videos, stuff like that. Do I use the streams for chat and Foon-o? I use a mixture of things for chat and Foon-o. So if you take a look at messages, it's going to be very similar. Stream sort of set a hash. On the client side, it treats it the same way that you would with Firebase. So you do the connection just the same exact way. And then this is on the back end, and the client just makes a connection to the server over a WebSocket, and it sends data to the client. I basically re-implemented Firebase real-time database inside of Redis. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. Let's see. So now I need to fix the size of these numbers. So how big should the numbers be? Width of that is 16 pixels out of 125, I think. Yeah. 16 out of 125 is on the size. So basically 0.128 times 162 0.7. Okay, so I need to be about 20.7 pixels. But that's specifically 20.7 of the two. This has got some space around it. All right. I'll just have to remember this. And I'll get back to it right after the leg raises. Notice that there's no chat in the leg raises. It's because I haven't added it. I guess I could add it. Hold on. Let me add it real fast. Let's add a browser. Add existing Botrix chat. We can move it over to the corner. Maybe make it a little bit bigger. There you go. Now you can see the chat. Okay. And done. Okay, so what I was doing is I've got this number here, and I've got to figure out how many pixels the current one is, get the ratio of that, and then multiply it by the current width, and that'll tell me where I need to be. Just that easy. So how many pixels is this? 24 pixels. So apparently we're too large. So divide by 24, take that, multiply that by the number of pixels that I'm currently at. And that will tell us where we need to be. Currently at 80%, so take this, multiply by 0.8. 0.69. Can't make this up. That is supposed to be the size, supposedly. Is that the same size? It does seem smaller. Maybe that's just its position. Let me try changing some stuff. Howdy, Cress. Doing pretty well today. I woke up early and I feel great. Okay, I kind of want to change this grid template rows and columns. Because I need a min-max 0, 1 for real, 1 for real, or something like that. Or not. Maybe it's not min-max. I think maybe it's like auto. 1 for real. Auto? It's literally the same. Probably just because this one's large. Nice. Okay, and now we have to do the same for the column as well. Auto, 1 for real auto. And we just have to adjust the size of everything else to also be 69%. Almost nice, not quite nice. It's not doing quite what I want. How about the size? Is the size good? I think the size works pretty well. It's right around the same size. So it's getting closer. You're addicted to using ChatGPT? Are you not allowed to use Charlie, ChatGPT, in your new internship? Because I think ChatGPT is a good thing. It helps you. It makes you faster. I use it daily. What's the app I'm using to connect to Redis? On the back end? Maybe it's IO Redis? I'm not sure. Oh, on my desktop. Redis Insights. So the way that I use it is I actually have a connection to the data center or whatever through Kubernetes, kubectl, to kind of like expose a service port, and then I'm able to connect to it through there. It's the kubectl proxy thing. Is that free? Yeah, yeah. It's all free. Most of the stuff I use is free. Except for Hetzner. Hetzner is not free. ChatGPT is allowed? Yeah, that's fine, Coder. Just make sure that you understand what it is that ChatGPT gives you. You should be able to run the code in your head and understand what it's going to do when you get the output from ChatGPT. As long as you can do that, you should be pretty okay. You run into issues when you're not able to understand the code. Because if you don't understand the code, then you don't understand when you're introducing bugs. You know, I'm not liking grid. I'm just gonna replace this with display flex, I think. Grid is just always too complicated. It's not working the way I want it to. Using Tailwind? Yep, that's right. I mean, that's almost what I want. Let's just do this. Corporate VPN? There's ways around that, Jake. Howdy, Jumpy. Jumpy, you're back. Welcome back, Jumpy. You gotta go here. You gotta go here, Jumpy, and you gotta go Dynamite and just play against a bot just real fast. Because you're missing. You haven't been on since I updated the high scores. So as soon as you play, like, you get 1 experience point, you'll be back on top. Yeah, welcome back. Glad to have you here for sure. Evan over here, like 1745 ELO, like what the heck? Oh, there's definitely ELO inflation going on. And give other players a chance. Oh, come on. You can't have me be number 1. Evan's almost number 1, actually. It's crazy. Alright, let's see. This is not the right solution. Alright, let's see. I'm not so sure about that one, Doku. I think Jumpy deserves it more. Jumpy played so much Dynamite. It should just be 1 FR, and that should make it expand. Let's see. So I don't want autofit, I don't want autofill. Where's the dance song redeem thing? It'll be back, Jumpy. I have to rotate my desk. One thing at a time. Yesterday I added this chat thingy. Yeah, that's not gonna help. Does using Redis streams handle at scale well for Foon-o? I mean, Redis will scale up to a decent size. At some point, we're gonna have to use a Redis Sentinel or something. So we'll see. But for the given size of Foon-o, it's just fine. I think we'll run into issues when we 100x, but at 100x, you know, I'm not gonna care because we'll be making so much money from Foon-o. I mean, I'll care then. Then 100x, I can switch to Kafka? Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so I mean, it looks like I was using 1 for real auto, 1 for real before. Maybe I got it backwards is what it was. I don't think I did. We'll see what that does. And then of course if I swap it around, then it almost works, except not quite. What's wrong with the current state of Foon-o? There's a few graphical glitches that occur because of the way that it's implemented with Phaser. Foon-o has a lot of images, and when Phaser loads the images, sometimes it doesn't work, probably because of the way I'm doing it. So it's easier for me to just rewrite it than to fix the bug. This will also make it faster and more performance on low power devices, so like phones and things. Okay, so it's doing some stuff. I think the problem is with 69%, it doesn't understand. Alright, let's try this without grid. Let's try using just display flex instead. V-Quirk, thank you for the sub. I appreciate it a lot. It means a lot to me. You changed your nickname. Okay then. What was it before? You gotta tell me. Sir Julian, what happened with Kick? Tomorrow we'll be on Kick. VQ? Oh, okay. Do I recommend watching tutorials or reading the documentation? I recommend doing the thing. So reading documentation can be very useful. Watching tutorials is not as useful. Basically, just don't get stuck. So if you're building a project, as you're building the project, maybe you get stuck on something. Like you're trying to implement login or auth or something else. So then you look at a tutorial or documentation or something for implementing the feature that you care about. You're not going to approach this in the way that some people do, where they're like, I don't know React. I'm gonna go do a React tutorial, or and learn the basics of React. That way is not as effective. I mean, it can still be effective if React is what you want to learn, but it's less useful, right? Because they're gonna have you go build like tic-tac-toe or something when what you're really trying to build is some Next.js application or something for, I don't know, something like a block or something totally different. Learn tech, like for why you need it. Yeah, like it's a lazy loading is all it is. It's you're working on a problem that you have, and then you learn what you need to solve the problem that you have, instead of trying to learn everything under the sun. It's the same way that you approach bossing in a video game. When you're trying to fight a boss, you might look at a YouTube video that kind of goes over the fight a bit before you start. That's totally fine. But you're not gonna study the nitty-gritty details of the fight because you probably don't care. You're gonna go in, you're gonna try it, you're gonna fail, and you're gonna be like, okay, why did I fail? And then you're gonna go back to the video and you're gonna look at that one part for why you failed. And then you're gonna remember it. Then you go back and you're gonna clear the fight. Because what's gonna happen is they're gonna throw out like, 20, 30 different moves and abilities that the boss has, and like 90% of them, it doesn't even matter. Like you take no damage, you could just ignore it the whole fight. And programming and everything else you learn is going to be the same way. Most of it doesn't matter. Some of it really does. So focus on what matters. And you figure out what matters by, solving your problem, and whenever you get stuck, well, that's the thing that matters. Alright, so I want flex, space between. Something like this. Alright, you know what? Maybe flex grid actually, or flex ended up being simpler after all. Alright, let's try that. Much better. The width is weird, but we can fix that pretty easily. What is the state of Foon-o Mobile? I got some mock-ups actually jumping not too long ago for Foon-o Mobile. Let's focus on getting these games on Crazy Games. Let's focus on increasing the number of players on Foon-o first, because I think it's going to be less effort than managing the mobile thing right now. But once we get those extra games out, we will focus on mobile more. There's going to be like a change. So currently when you're on mobile, the screen is very small and the chat is very large. We're going to be changing it so that you get to see more of the game. And that will be coming along and it should be pretty good. Though I don't know how that's going to work entirely because most games are 1 by 1. We'll play it by ear. We'll figure it out. Oh, right. I need a grower. And that should work. Hey, that looks pretty similar to what we had before. Location of the numbers is maybe a little off. Let's change these to 8s, just so that I can see a little bit better here. Shapes and number. I'll just do this instead. Shape to number, okay. Star. The new Vue transition API? Let me take a look. It's my backend all Node.js. Most of it. There's a bit of Rust. There's a bit of some other simple things, but I try to keep everything as simple as possible for the most part. So a lot of it's going to be TypeScript because it reduces developer overhead. You're not switching contexts between different languages. You don't have to go learn, 30 different things. You only have to learn 20 different things. Oh, this page transitions thingy? Oh, I mean, we use keyframes. So we already use this stuff. A view transition. Oh, so this is a little different. So you use CSS keyframes, but it's called like view transition. Interesting, interesting. Question is it actually supported? And it is. It's based on route change. Oh, I can't use it. It's not supported. I need it in Safari and Firefox, otherwise I can't use it. For some browsers, it makes it smooth. I don't really want to implement it until it's in Safari and Firefox. I'm sure there's other ways we can achieve the same thing. Alrighty. So we've got the star, which should be the number 8. Let's make the center also an 8. Center source. I see. It comes from card inside. Let's just do red star. And now it should be the number 8. Except my equipment is different. Okay, let's do this thing. It's not center, maybe it's not card, it's gonna be shapes / 8 large. Let's try that. Oh, I did black blue. Let's just do blue. And I just realized the filter is not being applied to the center image. Oh, probably because, yeah, that's just, it normally works, but I'm not actually using the style. This is all fine. Ignore the shadow. That won't be there. It'll be the right shadow color. All right, so we have to move it down a little bit, which makes sense because it doesn't really make a lot of sense actually. It would make more sense to move the bottom up. or to do both. Let's play around with it. So based on what we currently have, it would put it around there. Seems low. Kind of prefer it here. Which would then put the bottom up to about there. Well, that seems too far. No, it makes more sense to have, like, if you think of it like a card, you know, to have the same distance to the right as on the bottom. Which is, this is a little bit closer to that. Fancy spinning game. Something like that. I think that looks better, actually. Yeah, it totally looks better. Is Foon-o a monolith, or do I have micro apps for each game? Foon-o is a monolith right now, but I'm thinking about breaking out the Foon-o SDK into like an SDK so that other people can start making multiplayer games and have them on Foon-o as well, or have single player games on Foon-o. But that'll be later. And when I say later, I mean much later. There's no immediate plans to do that. Alrighty. So that's the card done. Now the card should change based on just the outer thing. I can make it however big or small that I want. It is a Foon-o card. And it mostly behaves the way that you would expect out of a single component. Right? Like, it doesn't look too bad. And I should be able to rotate 3D this thing. You know, you can like rotate it in whichever way you want. And look at that, now it's like a 3D object that's got... it's kind of a 3D object, right? Like, it doesn't have any actual size to it. It would be kind of interesting to give it the actual thickness. But I'm not sure how to do that. Yeah, you've got to do like multiple DOM elements or something, right? Yeah, we're not going to bother with that. All right, so that's cards done. All right, and so back to the default stuff there. The one thing that could be different is I don't think I sized the center image properly. I probably should take a look at that more. It looks like I made it a little bit bigger, which is probably fine. We'll play around with it. We'll see how it looks. Well, let's see. Let's just pick a random one real fast. That's so cute. Okay, that's orange. Those are fruits. Okay, let's just pick a different fruit. So, not draw. What about... which one's cross? No, well, okay, what about triangle? I think triangle is pair. I typically try to match them to things they look like. So, okay. I need to make it a little bit smaller, I think. Let's see. I think about there, actually. 71%. Perfect. Take care, Doku. I'll try to stream earlier tomorrow. And remember, tomorrow will be on Kick. The center source. I feel like that's so tiny looking. Is that really the way it looked? I mean, it must be, right? Like, oh, I guess that looks fine, actually. All right, so center card done. I guess the sides of this is now perfectly centered and everything is fantastic and it grows up to a point and then it stops growing because the card is no longer big enough. But if I set the minimum width, well, that should make it work. Let's try that. Almost. That looks awful. So what the heck happened there? I think there's some dub fulls, and they need to be like min dub fulls or something. Let's see. So there's something in here which is causing it to just go absolutely bonkers. With the minimum, what the heck? That doesn't make a darn bit of sense at all. Howdy, Steven. What am I creating? I'm recreating Foon-o in HTML5. Because I've got to do this for some of the games that we want to stick on Crazy Games. So this is Foon-o. It's a bit like Uno. So I'm just recreating it. I gotta do this for Foon-o, and then I've got to do it for checkers and chess. And I think Foon-o also needs it. A lot of things need it. But I feel like we probably don't need to do all this. But whatever. I'm going to talk with the co-founder a bit about it. Because even if it's not perfect, it's probably fine to keep it on Phaser. Like, we'll still get people. Even if our rating is a bit lower. Yeah, so here, it should be getting bigger. So let's start with the most outer thing. This needs to get bigger. And it does. That's because of this. It's because it's set to 71% of... Okay, I see what's going on. This is not growing to the size of the outer thing. And now it should size the right way. Easy fix. Parent of Foon-o card. Needs to be dub full and H full. That's gonna make it ginormous, so we'll have to resize it real fast. Why is the H full so big? That's tricky. Okay, so here's kind of the problem. I need it to be the minimum of the height and the width. And there's no easy way to do this in CSS. You can do it based on the entire height of the page using, like, you know, 100 VW and 100 VH or whatever. Let's see. I could do aspect ratio. I think I can just do aspect ratio of 1:1. Or something. Posture check? Okay, Packer. Well, I have aspect ratio. And it didn't respect the aspect ratio. Why is it not respecting aspect ratio? Still not respecting the aspect ratio. That became weird as heck. Let's see. Wait, did that aspect ratio actually work? Let's see here. Actually, I think it worked. I think I just had to, like, resize or something, possibly. Maybe not. I think I get it. Okay. So, the aspect ratio didn't work. What did work is having this be display none. Because now the size of this is based off of still not right. The problem is that it's not guaranteed. I know there's a way to do this. I've done this before. Like the aspect ratio container does some fancy schmancy stuff. But I built this a while back when it was harder to do this. It involved like lots of fancy CSS to make it work. Like you take a look at this, it's like terrifying. But that made it work. And my understanding is that CSS has changed in the last few years, so that's no longer necessary. Let's see, I think the reason it works is because only one of them is defined. Like if I say that the height is 200 pixels, it's no longer a square. So you have to just define one of them. Okay. So aspect ratio will work. Kind of. It works. I know that looks weird, but I get the aspect ratio working. Gosh darn it, I forgot to turn off the other stream again. Oh my goodness. Hold on. Hi, okay, hold on. I don't see it. Is it actually live? But you know what? I might accidentally be multi-streaming to YouTube again. Yeah, I totally am. Oh, you checked I'm not?